The war had ended, but peace still felt like a dream. Captain Ryan Hale stood at the edge of a golden bridge that led into the palace of the alien queen. The air around him shimmered with faint blue mist, and the walls ahead seemed alive, breathing, pulsing, whispering. Everything here looked like it belonged to another world, another kind of life. And yet he walked forward, boots heavy with dust and silence. He had been called to this place as a messenger, not a soldier. The long years of battle between humans and the Vithari Empire had taken everything from both sides. Billions were dead. Worlds were broken. And now at last a single human stood before the ruler of the enemy to end what the stars had started. Ryan's reflection moved across the polished surface of the palace floor as he entered the throne chamber. It stretched endlessly, walls glowing like soft sunlight through crystal, pillars humming with quiet energy. Alien guards lined the sides, their silver armor glinting like moonlight. They watched him without emotion, yet there was no hatred left in their eyes. Only weariness, the kind that comes from losing too much for too long. At the far end of the hall sat Queen Sarathil, the last ruler of the Vithari. She looked nothing like the monstrous alien stories he'd grown up hearing. She was tall, slender, and her skin shimmered faintly with shades of silver and pale violet. Her eyes, ancient and deep, seemed to hold entire galaxies inside them. Her presence filled the hall not with fear, but with sorrow and power mixed together. Ryan stopped before her throne and went down on one knee, his hand resting on his chest in the human salute of peace. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I come not to fight but to speak for Earth." For a long moment there was silence. The Queen's gaze stayed fixed on him, studying every detail of his face as if trying to read not just his words but his heart. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft and musical but filled with sadness. "You are the last human commander," she said. "Your kind fought until even the stars wept for you." Ryan lowered his head. "We didn't want war. We only wanted to survive." "I know," she whispered, "and perhaps that is why you stand here now, when so many of my kind no longer can." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He had come ready to negotiate, maybe even threaten, but not for this. There was no hate in her tone, no anger, only exhaustion. She rose slowly from her throne, her long silver hair falling like liquid light across her shoulders. "Your people burn bright," she said, walking closer to him. "So young, so alive. You love and fight with such madness, such fire. The Vithari once had that too. But it faded. We grew old while your kind learned to dream." Ryan didn't know what to say. He felt small standing in front of her, like a spark facing the moon. "Then why did you fight us?" he asked quietly. Sarathil looked past him toward the far window where her dying star burned in the dark sky. "Because it was the only thing that reminded us we were still alive." The words made Ryan's chest tighten. He understood in that strange and painful way that humans sometimes do. The Vithari had not fought for power. They had fought against the silence of their own ending. They feared extinction more than death. She turned back to him. "You have come at the end of all things, human, and yet, perhaps this is where something new begins." Her violet eyes glowed softly as she raised one graceful hand toward him. "Rise, Captain Hale. Let there be no bowing between us. The age of war is over. The time for choosing what comes next has begun." Ryan slowly stood. The sound of his armor echoed through the great hall like the heartbeat of a world trying to live again. He didn't yet understand what she meant by choosing, but deep inside, he felt that this meeting was not just between a human and an alien. It was between two dying hopes trying to find a reason to survive. Outside the palace walls, the dying sun shone weakly over the ruins of two civilizations. But for the first time in centuries, the air carried something new, a quiet whisper of peace born from sorrow, carried between two hearts that should have been enemies but were, somehow, the same. The palace corridors stretched endlessly, lit by walls that pulsed faintly with light, as if the very building had a heartbeat. Captain Ryan Hale followed Queen Sarathil, his boots making soft echoes on the polished floor. The air was heavy, warm, and smelled faintly of flowers he had never known, sweet but not overpowering, like a memory from another life. Sarathil moved gracefully, her long silver hair trailing behind her, yet every step carried the weight of centuries. Ryan realized that beauty could hide age, but it could not hide the burden of years. Every line on her face, every movement, told the story of countless wars fought and lost. of civilizations rising and falling like fragile glass. "You humans never stop," she said softly, her voice carrying a strange mixture of admiration and sorrow. "You fight, you dream, you love, even when the odds are impossible. We once had that too, you know." "Once." Ryan looked at her, his heart tightening. "Then what happened?" he asked. "Why are you like this now?" She stopped before a large window, the dying light of her star painting her face in gold and violet. Outside, the city of the Vathari stretched far, magnificent even in ruin. Its towers like spires of crystal, many broken, some still glowing. "Time," she whispered. "Time took it all. My people grew old. We forgot how to hope. We learned to survive, not to live. And when we tried to fight again, we discovered the fire in your kind." Her eyes softened. "It burns brighter than anything we remember." Ryan felt a lump in his throat. He had fought his way across galaxies, taken lives, lost friends, and yet standing here, he realized the truth he had never admitted even to himself. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were alive in ways no alien race could match. Their courage, their stubborn hope, their reckless hearts. It was a light the stars themselves seemed to envy. Sarathil led him further, down a hallway filled with murals etched in glowing stone. The images showed the rise of the Vathari Empire, worlds built with beauty and care, not war. Cities that seemed to breathe, children laughing under alien suns. Ryan's breath caught as he traced the stories with his eyes. This was not just a warlike species. It was a civilization that had loved, built, and dreamed before war consumed it. "My daughter awaits you," Sarathil said suddenly, her voice trembling. She stopped at a large metallic door, sealed with shimmering energy. Her hands hovered over the controls and Ryan could feel the anticipation in her. "What?" he began, but she shook her head gently. "You must see for yourself," she said. "She is the last hope of my people." The door hissed open, revealing a chamber bathed in soft golden light. Inside, a stasis pod floated, filled with gentle, pulsing energy. And within that pod lay a young woman, small, graceful, and serene. Her silver skin glimmered faintly and her delicate features seemed almost human. She was sleeping, yet there was a quiet power in her presence, a promise that life could endure even when everything else had fallen. Ryan's heart pounded. He had not expected this. The war had never prepared him for hope, especially not so pure, so fragile, and yet so strong. "This is Princess Elira," Sarathil said, her voice breaking slightly. "My daughter. She carries our people's future. And perhaps your kind's as well." Ryan stared at her, overwhelmed. "You want me to take her?" he whispered. Sarathil's violet eyes met his, full of both fear and trust. "I want you to teach her what it means to live, what it means to be human. Only then can both our civilizations survive." Ryan's chest tightened. He came as a soldier. He had trained for battle, strategy, negotiation, but never for this. Never to hold the future of an entire race in his hands, to carry hope as if it were as fragile as glass. The Queen stepped closer, her presence both comforting and heavy. "Your species is reckless, yes. But your hearts are strong. You will know what to do when the time comes. I believe in you, human." Ryan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her trust settle on his shoulders. Somewhere deep inside he realized this was bigger than war, bigger than victory or defeat. This was life itself, fragile and burning, asking him to protect it. He nodded slowly, not knowing what words could possibly honor her hope. I will do my best," he whispered. Sarathil gave a faint smile, the kind that had survived centuries of loss. "Then follow me, Ryan Hale. Your path begins here, with her." And for the first time, Ryan felt the stirrings of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The palace trembled as Ryan carried the stasis pod down the glowing corridors. Each step echoed like a heartbeat in the vast abandoned halls. Dust and debris fell around him, and the hum of the ancient machinery filled the silence. Outside, the planet's surface cracked and burned, the energy of its dying core reaching the palace. Ryan felt the weight of history pressing on him. Not just the war, but the lives lost on both sides, the civilizations that had faded into silence. Sarathil's voice came softly from behind him. "Move quickly, Ryan. Time is not on our side." "I know," he said, his throat tight. "But what if I fail?" She stepped closer, her presence a calming light in the chaos. then everything dies. But failure is not your nature, human. You are here because even the impossible burns brighter in your species. Remember that. Ryan nodded, gripping the pod tighter. The young princess inside seemed to stir slightly, as if she sensed the urgency, her faint pulse of light beating in rhythm with his own quickening heartbeat. The thought of losing her, of failing Serathil's trust, was unbearable. As they reached the great hall, Ryan paused. The alien soldiers, once proud and silent, had abandoned their posts. Broken banners hung limply from pillars, and the shimmering floors were cracked and uneven. The queen's throne loomed ahead, empty now, her absence a stark reminder of the sacrifices already made. I should have been stronger," Ryan whispered, his voice nearly lost in the quake of the palace. Serathil's hand rested briefly on his arm. "Strength is not measured by what you survive alone, but by what you protect despite fear. You carry the future in your hands. Do not doubt yourself now." A sudden roar shook the building. The ground split beneath them, forcing Ryan to stumble forward. Dust filled the air, and chunks of the ceiling fell around them. He clenched his teeth, forcing himself onward. Every step was a test of endurance, every moment a challenge against despair. The young princess stirred again, more noticeably this time. Ryan's chest tightened. Her life, delicate and precious, depended entirely on him. He could not let her fail. Not her, not Serathil. Suddenly the corridor ahead collapsed, leaving a gaping chasm of molten rock and energy. Ryan froze. There was no other way. He looked back toward the queen, but she had vanished into the chaos of the collapsing palace. "Go!" Her voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Protect her, for both our kinds." Ryan took a deep breath. He focused, remembering every lesson of war, every survival instinct drilled into him. With careful precision, he leapt across the chasm, landing hard but steady. The pod remained secure, Elira's pulse steady, glowing faintly like a promise. As he ran through the remaining corridors, Ryan felt the weight of the queen's words settle in his heart. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move forward despite it. He realized now that fear was natural, but hesitation could cost everything. The universe was cruel, but it was also waiting for those willing to fight for hope. Finally, he reached the landing bay. His ship awaited, engines humming like a living thing. Ryan carried the pod carefully onto the platform, securing it as he ran to the cockpit. The planet trembled violently beneath them. Towers crumbled, bridges cracked, and the dying sun cast long shadows over the ruins. Ryan gritted his teeth, piloting the ship through the collapsing atmosphere, feeling every tremor as if the world itself were trying to stop him. As the ship lifted into orbit, Ryan looked down at the dying planet. The palace, the cities, the legacy of an entire species, it all faded into golden light. Yet in his arms, Elira remained alive, glowing softly, a beacon of hope. Ryan exhaled, a mixture of relief, grief, and determination flooding him. He had survived, yes, but more importantly, he had chosen to protect life when everything else seemed lost. And somewhere in the quiet of space, the Queen's whisper lingered in his mind. "You carry our future now. Do not fail us, human." Ryan held the pod closer, feeling a surge of purpose he had never known. His journey was only beginning, and the weight of 2 civilizations rested squarely on his shoulders. For the first time, he understood that true courage was not in winning wars, but in protecting what mattered most, even when the universe itself seemed determined to destroy it. The ship shuddered as it cleared the upper atmosphere of the dying planet. Ryan's hands remained steady on the controls, but his heart pounded with the weight of everything he had just escaped. Below, the planet's surface cracked and glowed, with molten rivers, while the remains of the palace and city were swallowed by fire and dust. Every second felt like the end of a world, and it was. He glanced at the stasis pod cradling Princess Elira. Her soft glow pulsed gently, a reminder of life that still burned even as the Vathari world died. Ryan's chest tightened with a mixture of awe and responsibility. This tiny being carried the legacy of an entire species, and he had promised to protect her. A soft voice came from the ship's communicator, barely above a whisper. "Ryan, listen." It was Queen Sarathil. Though he could no longer see her, her presence filled the cabin, as if the warmth of her spirit had somehow followed him into space. "Do you understand what you carry now?" she asked. Ryan swallowed hard. "Yes, I will protect her. I swear it." "Good," she said. There was a pause, filled with quiet sorrow. "You have seen our world die. You have seen my people fade. And yet you have chosen to fight for life instead of surrendering to despair. That is what makes humans extraordinary." Ryan exhaled slowly. "I don't feel extraordinary. I couldn't leave her behind." Sarathil's voice softened, almost maternal now. "It is not about feeling extraordinary, Ryan. It is about choosing the light when darkness surrounds you. My daughter needs you to be that light, not because you are perfect, but because you refuse to fail her." The ship rocked suddenly as a tremor from the planet's core reached orbit. Ryan gritted his teeth, steadying the controls. "She won't fail. I won't let her." "You must also understand," Sarathil said, her tone heavier now, "that I will not follow you. I have lived my time, Ryan. The galaxy has taken its toll, and I am too old for what comes next. Too old for you. But my daughter, she awaits you. She is the future. You must guide her, teach her, protect her, and love her as humans do." Ryan's throat tightened at her words. He wanted to see her, to beg her not to leave him alone with such a responsibility, but he could hear the resolute calm behind her voice. This was her choice, and it was final. I understand, Your Majesty," he whispered. "I will honor your trust." "Good," she said. A faint sigh followed, carrying both relief and grief. "Remember this, Ryan. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move forward despite it. And you have chosen wisely." Ryan looked down at Elira again. She remained serene in her pod, her glow a soft pulse against the darkness of space. The thought that this tiny, fragile being depended entirely on him pressed on his chest. He had never carried anything so important before. He had lost comrades, fought battles, and seen death on countless worlds. But this was different. For the first time, he understood the depth of responsibility, the weight of hope itself. Protecting Elira was not a mission. It was a promise. A promise to a dying queen, to a lost civilization, and to the fragile pulse of life that refused to be snuffed out. "Goodbye, Ryan," Sarathil whispered finally. "And thank you for seeing what others could not, for choosing life when everything else ends. My daughter's future rests in your hands now. Do not fail her." Her voice faded from the communicator, leaving Ryan in silence. He exhaled deeply, letting the tension slip slightly from his shoulders, but the weight remained. He had a new mission now, one far greater than war. He had to protect life itself. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, cold and vast. But within, the cabin, the soft glow of Elira's pod reminded him that even in the darkest void, life could shine. He had survived the destruction of a world and carried its last hope in his arms. And somewhere in the silence he felt it, the quiet whisper of the Queen's trust lingering in his heart, guiding him forward. Ryan tightened his grip on the controls, his resolve hardening. The galaxy had given him a chance to change the course of two civilizations. He would not waste it. The journey had only begun. The ship glided through the endless black of space, stars streaking past as if the universe itself was moving in rhythm with Ryan's heartbeat. In the cargo hold, Princess Elira lay in her stasis pod, glowing softly like a small, fragile sun. Ryan watched her silently, feeling a mix of awe, fear, and responsibility. She was no longer just an alien princess. She was the last hope of her people, and somehow, she was his responsibility now. Ryan's hands rested on the pod almost instinctively. "I hope I can do this," he whispered. "I hope I'm enough for you." For her. The quiet hum of the ship seemed to answer him, a gentle reminder that life could persist even in the void. His thoughts drifted back to Queen Sarathil, and her final words echoed in his mind. "I'm too old for you, human, but my daughter awaits you." Her trust weighed on him, heavy but luminous, and he realized that courage was not just about fighting. It was about caring when the stakes were higher than life itself. Hours passed, and Ryan finally allowed himself to rest for a moment, leaning against the ship's railing. He closed his eyes and let the memory of the dying planet flood his mind. The fiery collapse of the palace, the trembling corridors, the Queen's last smile, everything pressed against him like a lesson he would never forget. He had survived war before, but this was different. This was not about killing enemies. It was about protecting life, fragile and precious, and carrying hope where none seemed left. The hum of the stasis pod stirred him from his thoughts. Elira's pulse glowed brighter, and a faint movement shifted within. Ryan held his breath, unsure what it meant. Was she waking? Or was it just the pod systems adjusting? Either way, he felt the surge of responsibility tighten around his chest. Every choice he made now could mean life or death, not just for her, but for the future of an entire species. As the ship passed through a nearby asteroid field, Ryan adjusted the navigation. His muscles tensed, reflexes honed from years of combat guiding him through the dangerous debris. Even now, he realized, humans were made for survival, for hope in the darkest moments. Every leap, every dodge, every careful maneuver reminded him of what the Queen had said. "Your kind fights, loves, endures, even when the universe seems against you." Finally, after hours of travel, Ryan reached the coordinates the Queen had provided. A small, uninhabited planet waited below, its atmosphere rich with oxygen and life-sustaining resources. It would be safe here, at least for now. The ship descended slowly, carefully, as if the universe itself had slowed to watch him succeed. He opened the cargo hold and gently lowered Elira's pod onto the soft soil of the new world. Ryan knelt beside her, running his fingers over the smooth surface of the pod. "This is your home now," he whispered. "You are safe here, and I promise I will teach you everything you need to know. You will live and you will thrive." The pod began to hum softly, responding to his touch. Ryan felt a spark of hope ripple through him. In this small moment, he understood something he had never known in the midst of war. Hope was not just an idea. It was action. It was protection. It was love, even when fear threatened to consume you. As night fell over the planet, Ryan looked up at the stars. Somewhere, far away, the dying Vathari world still burned in memory, and the Queen's voice whispered through the silence. "Do not fail her. Human." Ryan pressed his hand to Elira's pod again, determination blazing in his chest. He would not fail. He could not fail. For her, for the future, for the light that refused to die even in the darkest corners of the universe. And somewhere, deep within him, Ryan felt a quiet warmth. The first spark of a bond that would grow stronger than fear, stronger than time, and stronger than the void itself. The journey had only begun. And yet, for the first time in a long time, Ryan felt that even in the darkness, life could shine brighter than any war or galaxy. The sun rose slowly over the horizon of the new planet, painting the sky in shades of gold and soft violet. Ryan Hale stood beside the stasis pod, watching the first light touch Princess Elira's silver hair through the transparent casing. For the first time since leaving the dying world, he allowed himself to breathe fully, letting the weight of the past months settle into quiet resolve. He carefully activated the pod's awakening sequence. Elira's eyes fluttered open, revealing the same violet hue as her mother's. Her gaze met Ryan's immediately, filled with curiosity, wonder, and a hint of fear. He knelt beside her, trying to keep his voice calm. "Welcome to your new home," he said softly. "You're safe now." Elira studied him for a moment, her fingers brushing against the pod's interior. "It's different here," she whispered. "It smells alive," Ryan smiled faintly. "Yes, this world is yours to explore, to grow, to live, and I'll be here to teach you everything you need to know." She hesitated, then looked up at him fully. "My mother, she trusted you." Ryan felt a lump in his throat. He remembered Queen Sarathil's words, her final farewell, the quiet weight of her trust pressing upon him. "I will honor her," he said, I promise. Elira nodded, a small, determined movement as if accepting both the responsibility and the hope she now carried. For the first time she stepped out of the pod, her feet sinking into the soft soil. Ryan reached out to steady her, and in that simple touch, a bond formed, not just of protector and ward, but of two lives intertwined by fate, trust, and survival. They spent the day exploring the quiet plains and gentle forests of the New World. Elira marveled at the colors of the flowers, the wind dancing through her hair, and the sound of water flowing freely for the first time in her life. Ryan watched her, feeling pride and awe. She was the last of her people, yet in her laughter he sensed life itself refusing to fade. As night fell, Ryan and Elira stood atop a hill, gazing at the stars. The constellations were unfamiliar, yet they reminded him of Earth. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of both loss and hope. The Vathari world had perished, and Queen Serathil had chosen to remain behind. Yet through Elira, the future of her people, and the chance for two civilizations to coexist, lived on. "Do you think we'll ever meet others?" Elira asked softly. "Humans? Aliens?" Ryan looked to the stars and smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But for now, we focus on survival, growth, learning what it means to live in a world that still has hope." Elira nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of the twin moons rising above the horizon. "My mother said humans burn bright. I see it now." Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. "And you will burn even brighter. She chose well when she trusted me with you." For the first time, Ryan allowed himself a moment of peace. The battles were over. The wars were behind them. What remained was a chance to build, to protect, to nurture life that refused to be snuffed out. And though the galaxy was vast and full of unknown dangers, they would face it together, somewhere far away, perhaps carried in the quiet echo of space. Ryan imagined the Queen's voice whispering once more, "My daughter awaits you, human. Do not let her fade." Ryan smiled and nodded, though she could not see him. "I won't," he whispered. Elira stepped closer, her small hand resting on his. Together they looked out at the endless horizon. The first light of a new day warmed their faces, and for the first time since the fall of the Vathari world, hope felt real. The story of survival, courage, and trust had led them here, not just across the stars, but into a future where life could flourish again. And Ryan knew without doubt that the fire of humanity, the reckless, unyielding, shining heart of his kind, would guide them both into the unknown. A new dawn had begun, carrying the promise of life, love, and hope that no star, no empire, and no end could ever take away.